Hello, everybody. Welcome to a surprise interview session that we've got planned for today. Today, we are going to be speaking with a couple of representatives from the Trevor Project, which I'm really happy to have on. I've had a couple of discussions with them in private, and we kind of really wanted to bring this to a public discussion that we could share with the Cerulean community. So I'd like to bring on Tina and Kimberly today, and hope you guys enjoy. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Devin.
You're so welcome. I just want to thank you both for all the work you do, and having an organization like Trevor Project around to really help communities in need, especially young people. So thank you so much for that.
Well, we're excited to be here, and I would be remiss if I didn't take the chance to first introduce myself and also say a huge thank you to your community. So my name is Tina Barber, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Community Philanthropy at the Trevor Project. I'm here with my colleague, Kimberly. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, I'm Kimberly. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a Community Philanthropy Manager here at the Trevor Project.
So we're super excited to be here for a lot of reasons, but primarily to say thank you to the Cerulean Project and all the folks who have been participating with you, Devin, for so long. I mean, I think a lot of folks don't understand how critical and important it is, the work that you're doing and the awareness that your community is raising, not just about LGBTQ issues, but the importance of suicide prevention and allyship for young people in the community, and all the ways that we work together to create safe, welcoming spaces for young people to be affirmed and meet people that are like them and ask questions and find ways to navigate all the complexity of becoming an adult person. Trevor can't be everywhere all the time. We do our best, and we are through our our text and chat and our hotline services. We're there 24/7, 365 for young people when they need us. But that's not enough to do all the work that's out there. So the community that you create and the amplification that your members do of the work that Trevor's doing and all the work that we can do together is so important in reminding young people that there are people that love them and care about them and will accept them no matter what. And there's spaces that they can show up and be themselves, even if it's not directly in their home or in their school. There are communities and places they can find where they will be loved and accepted. So I'm so excited and grateful for the work that you and your community are doing to support Trevor, and more importantly, the young people that we serve, who are our number one priority all the time.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because again, it's really important to the community, and it's been extremely important to myself to provide a safe space for people to be themselves and to learn about others and to learn about themselves and to connect and all of, just what they might be missing out in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, we know from our research that communities like yours are critical in helping young people feel safe and secure and, have increased outcomes to their mental health. I think it's hard for adults and for folks who aren't part of these communities to really understand how impactful they can be to the lived experiences of folks. We were talking about this in the green room before we came on, but the way that the internet has created space for us all to be connected and find our people is so important, especially for LGBTQ young people who live in communities where they might not see another trans or non-binary person on the regular. They can find these spaces where they not only see people who are like them, but also share their interests. And I think that there's just something so powerful about that. And we know how impactful it is, to young people having that security to navigate the journey towards adulthood, and then go into the world and make, meaningful changes and build this vision for a world where where people are more loved and more affirmed and accepted. It's just, yeah, we need more spaces like this, truly.
We do. We need more communities like this. We need more, groups and communities that really help people feel accepted, feel seen, give them a safe place to grow, because like you said in the green room, like there might be places where it's illegal to, be part of an LGBT community or be non-binary or be trans and things like that. And so it breaks my heart thinking about people stuck in those types of situations where they can't even express it, much alone even see it. And so you're so correct in like how important a sense of community and building a community is on the psyche and the mental health, because these things are so heavy, especially for a young person to deal with and process, that it can impact their mental health. And, as we change and we grow and we're growing towards adulthood, can just be incredibly difficult. And it can feel like an uphill battle that is, you're constantly losing ground on.
For sure. I mean, we know that increasingly more often, young people, I think it's like 60 or 70% of young people are looking first online to build communities, which is like, you think about what that means for how our social development skills like evolve as generations change, right? Like we need to make sure that these spaces where young people are seeking community not only like represent the full spectrum of like identities and orientations, like they have to be spaces where young people can find meaningful connections that inspire them to continue on their journey. And like, all these like, as we're going into the holidays and like things start to get busy and difficult, I think it's so important for these kinds of spaces to exist, as like young people are, faced with like family or, experiences where they might not be referred to by the name of their choice or like the pronouns that match their identity. Like these are spaces where they can show up and be who they are and be affirmed exactly as they are. And so whether it's like a chat room or like a hobby space or whatever that is, those, revolutionary acts of self-care that like young people need to engage in, like those are the things that keep that like light lit, right? As you're going into these difficult periods of time where you might be faced with folks who aren't as affirming to you as they really can and should be. I think that's the other part of Trevor's work that's like so meaningful to me is like, we're not just there to serve young people in a moment of crisis. Like we're also here to make sure adults are better educated in their allyship journey, right? Like how do we help parents and teachers and, all these other adults in the world better understand the young people in their lives and show up as meaningful allies in their journeys. Like, the guides and the research and the trainings, like all of that education work, that's for adults so that they can be better, right? And I think it's so important for like both parts of that work to happen together, especially now when things are so challenging and scary and there's so much happening in the world that like, I think about my own life and there are days that I'm like, wow, this is the world that we live in. Like, I need to take a step back and take a break. And I couldn't imagine how challenging it must be to, be a younger person trying to make sense of all of this stuff that's happening around them.
And making sense of yourself. I think that's really big. And, the guides I feel are crucial. That's always been a big part of Cerulean is empowering people through knowledge and understanding. And I think what you guys do with guides, because I feel like, this could be overwhelming to some people, especially if you're pairing, understanding these types of communities, but also understanding the mental health aspects of these too, and like how those go hand in hand. And for an adult who's already feeling overwhelmed by the world, we're all adults here. We feel overwhelmed at times. And now you have a child who's dealing with that, can be incredibly just, I think, almost debilitating in your way to how to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, we know from our research that like, 40% of young people have said that their homes are not affirming. 40% is like a huge number.
Huge number.
And sometimes the difference between being in an affirming home and not being in an affirming home is an education gap. Like, we know from talking to adults that they have questions and they don't understand, and they meaningfully want to do better, and often they just don't know where to start. And I think that that's why some of the things that we do to connect young people to adults, like through our Trevor Talk series and our Learn with Love series, are like opportunities for us to demonstrate like what some of those meaningful conversations between young people and adults can look like, and how adults can learn to ask different kinds of questions and like listen actively to the young people in their lives, because that listening and that engagement and that orientation towards learning from an adult is a huge step towards demonstrating to young people that you see them and you hear them and that you have their back, even if you're not like 100% there on your own journey, because there's still more for you to learn. Like,
You're at least trying.
You're trying. And like, allyship is a lifelong commitment to learning and growing and becoming more connected to how you can support the people in your life that need your support. And yeah, all that research, all that education, all those guides, like, it helps those adults get further along. And I think, a lot of adults are probably connected to young people who are part of your community. And I think there's ways that the way that Cerulean Project shows up for young people and with one another that like helps adults, continue to see that the effect of these kinds of communities, like on the experience of young people, and like the ways that these meaningful connections that we build around things that we love and bring us joy, like really can help change our minds and change our perspectives and like open us up to new experiences and better and deeper understandings of like what's out there in the world.
Yep. And that paths aren't linear. They're fluid. They change, they grow, they widen and they narrow. And we have young people as part of the project, and we have, adults who have children too, and they're going through that. And so it's really, again, empowering them to be more understanding and to be more willing to learn and understand and say that, hey, look, like, this community is all learning, like, you value the community, you value what we're saying to each other and our dialogues with each other. So why not take a step towards understanding yourself more, or understanding your child more, or, and things like that. And so it's incredibly important to have those, and to be able to create, even a safe space for people who might be hesitant towards learning, to be like, okay, like, this is approachable, like, I can do this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of us know everything, right? And I think that like being, at Trevor, we talk a lot about our values and being brave and having, a deep commitment to like heart-centered decisions and making sure that the best interests of LGBTQ young people are always at the center of like our decision making. But like being courageous and being brave and being full of heart also asks you to be teachable, right? It asks you to be curious,
Vulnerable,
and to
curious,
be vulnerable about like what you don't know and where you can grow. And, Trevor's only 25 compared to some other organizations. That's, really, really young. And I think, we're in the real doing of the work right now, where we're learning as an organization and growing to meet the increased need for our services. This last year, we served over 500,000 LGBTQ young people who reached out to Trevor. That's twice as many as we served the year before. And so, and that's not even, that's like,
and you're not even meeting the true needs of the community.
Yeah, we're really not even meeting the need that's out there. So thinking about like all the ways we need to continue as an organization to evolve and be better and learn more and like continue to meet young people where they are with the services that they need and that they want, that's what drives us forward every day. And it's tough to be a nonprofit organization in general right now. It's increasingly harder to be an LGBTQ youth serving organization. I mean, There's over 600 anti-trans bills out right now in the world. And, there's going to be more probably when we.
Well, yeah, and we were talking earlier about the amount of disinformation that's out there, and it's just constantly trying to bombard people who maybe don't really understand, but it perhaps speaks to some post-truth or some stigma or something about them that, like they're like, okay, this is easier for me to accept this than to be vulnerable and to accept that there might be something else. Like I might not know everything, and so it's a lot of work. And so I'm really happy that you guys are really at the forefront of this and paying attention to this and trying to really educate people on this. Because it breaks my heart seeing all these anti-trans bills going up, all of these organizations that are kind of anti-LGBTQ, and it's just, I don't know. It's always just like, why can't we just support each other in our lives and in our journeys that we're having?
Yeah. I believe we're going to get there one day. I mean, the thing that
definitely
it's inspiring, I think.
Because you've probably seen it change over the last 25 years. How long have both of you been?
It's almost 3 years for me.
Nice.
Kimberly?
I'm nearing a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, a year ago, there were 300 bills.
Yeah.
Yep.
When I first started at Trevor, we were really optimistic, about what was ahead. We were navigating the pandemic and like an influx of growth and really optimistic about what was possible in the future. And I think we're still really optimistic, because the young people that we get to talk to every day are such incredible representations of what's possible, right?
Yep.
Younger generations are more intersectional and like varied in their identities and understandings, of who they are. And there's such an incredible power in that intersectionality and diversity. Like every time I get to hear from young people or interact with young people, I say this all the time and it's kind of hokey. I'm going to reveal my age to the folks who are watching, but like the kids are really all right. Like they're incredible and optimistic and like doing amazing things already. I really have hope and confidence in this, like in the future, because of the young people that I get to interact with.
Yeah, I very much agree with you on that because we see it here in our town, and my wife works with like a kids gaming studio, so she sees a lot of that. And yeah, it's as many bills and as many people are trying to hurt this community is also growing stronger through its knowledge and its connection and its willingness to speak up and to speak out. And that's just huge. And it's like, I just want to champion them all the way there.
Yeah. It's a pretty incredible gift to be at an organization that, like, I'm a queer parent. I have, a trans child and a non-binary child. And like, I think about the world that they get to live in that is so different than the world that I grew up in. And like, there are we've made so much progress really in such a short period of time. When you think about like where we were 50 years ago or even 75 years ago, it doesn't diminish that there's still so much more work to do. But thinking about like just the way that young people are bringing so much light and joy into the world with how they see themselves and they build connections with one another. And, it's really inspiring to imagine. Like, I'm excited to be an old person in the world that young people build, because it's going to be a much more beautiful place than the one that like I'm in right now. And I think that there's so much for us to learn from these communities and from the way that folks are connecting with one another and supporting each other and building each other up. The world, I don't think that optimism and that hope and that beauty can really be diminished no matter what happens. There's more people who are on the side of hope and optimism, I think, than there are those that are not.
Definitely. Well, and even, if people are like, okay, like the kids are doing it, they still need allies. They still need people fighting for them. They still need people in their corners. Like they still need people advocating for them. And so, it's, like you said, it's going to continue to grow, but we continue to need to support them.
Yeah. And I think that's why, like, we think about the work that like Kimberly does in our community where she's connecting with like fundraisers and streamers. You want to talk a little bit about that, Kimberly?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say too that, I mean, the Trevor Project is really a place that someone can turn to when they need support, when they're not receiving it at home or at school or in their community. And so having the Trevor Project as a resource for someone's on the other end of the line or the chat, ready to listen, provide support. And we really are a community of allies and friends and folks that are part of the LGBTQ community. And I see that every day with the folks that I get to interact with. So I oftentimes am either on Facebook, and with our Facebook community, it's a lot of our supportive adults that are either similar to what we were already talking about earlier in the conversation, either showing up for a young person in their life, wanting to learn more, asking thoughtful, inquisitive questions, and Trevor being on the other end, being able to share all of our research, our blogs. And then with our streaming community, that really draws in a lot more of our like Gen Z, millennial audience. I mean, we're streaming right now, but for folks that are streaming on platforms like TikTok and Twitch and YouTube, and they're fundraising for Trevor, I've really found that it's become actually like an international conversation. It's not just folks in the US that are fundraising for Trevor, but because of platforms like TikTok and Twitch, folks internationally are aware of Trevor and fundraising for us. Like we recently even did a campaign with the author Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it was based off of one of her best-selling novels, and we had folks, like over 300 people participate from 9 different countries. And so, wow. Yeah, and it's just incredible to see the way that people show up, especially in the online space, because, and also similar to our work with Trevor, it's not just our crisis hotline, but we've also got Trevor Space that's a safe online community space for young people that are 13 and 24 years old. And that is actually international too. So folks all over are able to connect with one another, seek advice from their peers. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how do young people access that space?
It's Trevor, I think it has its own landing page. So
Mm-hmm.
So it's the trevorspace.org. Okay. And anyone 13 and 24 can register. We do separate the 18 and up from the 13 to 17-year-olds, but it's moderated by Trevor staff, and it's similar to a chat room, so folks are able to ask questions. So similarly, like if there's not someone in their like day-to-day life offline that they don't have someone supportive that they can turn to ask questions, to learn more about themselves, they can always go to Trevor Space as well. And we always share like resources in there, but then it's also really an opportunity for young people to connect with one another.
That's great. It's great that you guys have that.
Yeah, it's we're trying to find ways to meet young people where they are and where they need us, right? Like, yeah. I think it's so important, I think, for all of us to remember that it's actually going to take all of us. Like, exactly. Trevor can't do it alone.
Yep.
We are so grateful for the supporters, the fundraisers, the donors, the volunteers, the advocates, the mission evangelists who just like go out in the world, and whether you're committed to Trevor or not, like we want you to be committed to LGBTQ young people and like the world where they are safe, loved, and affirmed, because Trevor can't build that by ourselves. Like it's going to take all of us working together from like all our various launch points, right? Like,
yeah,
there's no perfect allies. There's no perfect organizations. Like we all have to like throw our energy and effort into this together and like really deliver on our mission and deliver on our community vision for this world where young people are loved and affirmed. Like, we got to change policies. We got to, at the local level, at the state level, at the federal
Yep.
level, we've got to talk about, books are being banned in schools that represent LGBTQ identities. Like, this is at every level of like the lived experiences of young people. And so there's a role for every person to play in this commitment. And we actually all need to show up and do it together, whether it's a small act, it's something as small as like introducing yourself with your pronouns at like a family dinner this holiday season, right? Like, that
Yep.
can signal to an LGBTQ young person that you're safe, right? And
Yep.
like, could be the
I'm
thing
an ally, like,
right,
yep.
I'm an ally, I see you, like, it can open up a line of communication that like may not have been available otherwise. And it doesn't take, like, you're not losing anything from yourself by showing up that way. In our town, everyone flies pride flags like year round. Like, there's Hanukkah pride flags and Christmas pride flags. We had a Halloween pride flag. Like, it's more signaling that like these are safe places to be who you are. And I think those are just simple, small things that adults can do that tell young people that they are seen and they are loved and folks are going to have their backs. And then obviously, to your point of earlier, Devin, there's so much work for adults to do to advocate on behalf of young people, get educated on the issues, like understand how those things are going to impact your communities and show up.
Show up at local
Show
voting,
up.
like show
Right?
up. You got to show up for a kid. Like, because again,
Yeah.
we're talking about a group of people who might not be able to go and vote yet. They
Mhm.
might not be able to like, influence legislation and things like that. And so really it takes a village. Everybody's got a role. I think you really nailed it. Like, everybody has a role and an opportunity that they can play in helping create a better community, a better world for these young people.
And we all benefit from that world, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not just for young people. Like,
No.
that world is better for all of us to live in. And that's the world I want to be in, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before. Like, I love the town that I moved to because of how progressive it is, because of how safe it is, because of how open and understanding and loving it is. Like, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're grown-ups and seeking that out, right? On the regular.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more opportunity and mobility in our lives than young people do. And so I think that's why, again, to circle back, like the community of the Cerulean Project, like the community of Trevor Space, like the communities of all the different kinds of interesting things that folks like to do, where it's about doing that incredible creative work together. But it's also about building those connections that as human beings, like, we need to
We
be
need it.
able to like exist in the world. We weren't,
Crucial to mental health
we're
and
not
our
built,
overall sense of wellness. Yeah. Like,
we're not built
well, and it's,
for isolation.
yeah. And I mean, in the last 2 to 3 years, some of the statistics have been around over 70, almost 80% of people find their communities online. And so that says right there how important it is to even start there so you can build that out. Like, it's going to grow from there. Like, it's going to begin to influence our, in real life, offline kind of world.
For sure. I mean, it already is in so many ways, right? And
Yep.
thinking about like how important those connections are, like making sure that there's messages and resources available in those communities for folks who may be struggling are so important. And, it's one of the reasons we're so grateful for the work that you do, Devin, because we know that you're constantly making sure that like the people in your community have access to resources if they need them, and like advocating for everyone in the community to be able to be who they are and get what they need and be kind and loving to one another. Like, that's the difference between like someone feeling like they have a safe place to be, and that if they need help, they can ask for it, and like someone sort of falling off that isolation ledge and sort of just ghosting and disappearing. Like, those are the kinds of spaces that are so important, especially for young people who are in rural or isolated communities where they don't have access to maybe an LGBTQ community center, or maybe their school isn't, a best practice affirming space. So like the work that you do and the resources that you share and the connections that your community builds, like those reinforce all the things that Trevor is trying to do in the world. Like, in so many ways, the communities that are curated in these spaces become extensions of sort of the Trevor community, and we become part of your community and you become part of our community as we like embrace all these young people who are just, looking to feel connected. And it's so important and critical, especially now when things are, in some places it's getting colder, it's getting darker, and like it's harder when you can't be with the people that you care about and you can't connect in the real world, the way that as your real self, and so these spaces are so important for young
especially
people.
as we go through, seasonal affective disorder and things like that. That was always the goal of Cerulean, was to provide something, basically a lifeboat through the light change, through those really September, October, and then carry that through November, December, and into January with the book coming out, and having this thing on the horizon for people to look forward to, and then something for somebody to go and take to somebody else and be like, look at what I'm a part of. Look at like this information. Like, this was an aha moment for me. I hope it's an aha moment for you too. And, cause it's so hard as it gets colder and darker, and we become more isolated.
Yeah. And,
which just exacerbates that sense of isolation
it does
in the beginning.
And honestly, like, I raised 2 teenagers. So like, I've been in a lot of those conversations where you're like, tomorrow will be better. It's like, the truth is that as long as there's a possibility, like let's reach for it. Right. And I think that hope, that possibility, that get to tomorrow, get through the darkness, there's light on the other side. It's really quite true that as we mature and we age and we learn more and we grow more and we become more fully who we are, it does get a little easier incrementally. It does get a little better incrementally. And it's, the world is a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful place because of all the incredible folks who are in it. And I want all of them to be here tomorrow and the next day and the day after. And I think giving folks an opportunity to look beyond this moment, this day, this challenge, this hurdle, that's the beautiful possibility on the other side, right?
100%. And as you said before, we're heading into the holidays are massive hurdles for that. And so it is just kind of like, look, like, you're going to get through this. You're going to get through this with us. You're going to get through this with them. Like, you're going to get through this with your community, and it's going to suck. It might suck today, but it's going to be better tomorrow. And you're so right in that.
Yeah. I used to say, well, I still say it to my kids when I talk to them, but like, today is not forever, and, gosh, like, I feel that way as an adult sometimes, like, man, today is not forever. And I'm grateful that today is not forever, because that means that there's a possibility for tomorrow, Yeah.
You got to wake up tomorrow and try again, and hopefully it's better, and it should be better. Like, I dealt with the bad stuff today. So tomorrow, at least it's behind me. Tomorrow's a fresh start.
Yeah. And like, I mean, we do things in small bits, right? Like, we don't have to tackle everything all at once. And thinking about the holidays and how difficult that can be, like, we got to go in ready with the stuff that makes us feel safe and good, right? Like our favorite playlists, our favorite books, like streaming our favorite media, like whatever those things are that like
gathering those tools up. Like,
like making sure we have all of our tools in our toolbox to like meet those moments, knowing that they aren't forever. And then being able to retreat into spaces that create safety for us, like this one or others, during the holiday season, Trevor's going to be trying to be as available as possible. Like our services will be available, our lines will be open. We're going to be doing some streaming activations where folks can check in for like cozy chats. Like we really are going to try and amplify our ability to be available for folks during the holiday season. So
do you see a massive uptick during the holiday season?
We do see an increased number of calls that come in, during the holidays. For us, the hardest time for young people seems to be overnight, and overnight during the holidays is really tough. So we're getting ready for what that's going to mean in terms of making sure that we have like all of our staff is up to date and that we've got lots of volunteers online. Trevor Space will be open, and operational. It is all the time. We're going to have some streaming opportunities available during the holiday seasons where we're going to be hosting conversations with like folks about what it means, to do self-care for yourself during this time, offering, increased resources and guides for adults so that they can show up
Wonderful.
and be better during this time of year. It's going to be tough, and it's always tough, but I think it's harder when you're in this like time where you feel like people should just accept and love you, especially during the holidays, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, that's why I think it becomes more difficult. And so we're going to show up, and we want all the other supportive adults to show up too. And, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be like a huge gesture, but do the things that you can, and
just one foot forward.
Yeah, just take one step and then the next step. It's a little bit at a time. And we're really excited about all the folks who care so much about us and the young people that we serve. And we're so grateful to be able to do the work, but also like have these conversations because, I think sometimes like when you're an organization that's big like Trevor, like folks can be like, oh, it's just this kind of like big organization. But like all the people that make Trevor up are deeply committed, like caring, heart-centered folks who many of us, were LGBTQ young people at one point trying to figure it out. And now we're adults trying to kind of pay it forward and give back. And, we're all human beings like finding our way to this mission together, and like knowing that there's so many more people outside of Trevor who are so committed to the young people that we care about. Like that's what inspires us to come and do the work, right? Is like that we have this like veritable army of like supportive adults who are ready, to activate for young people when they need them. Like that's the thing that inspires us to keep coming back, even when it's tough, because it's tough right now. The economy's tough and the environment around LGBTQ issues is tough, but the people that care about the young people are incredible.
Yeah. Well, and they're showing up because it's a testament to it. You guys are getting larger, you're serving more people, things like that. And it's still underserved, right? Like the community is still underserved. So it takes these allies, it takes everybody starting to show up and beginning to just be there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I will end this by, because I got to jump to a next thing, but like I will end this by reiterating what I said at the beginning. I am so personally grateful for, the way that your community shows up, the way that you advocate, Devin, not just for Trevor, but for LGBTQ young people. You're tireless, quite literally, in your advocacy. And I'm so grateful to have had this time with you and, with your community.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really just grateful for the folks that keep showing up for young people and for Trevor.
No, thank you so much for that. And thank you for coming here today and sharing. And again, I think just, giving a voice to Trevor too, in some ways, because I think like your point of it can be this big organization and people are like, oh, it's just a corporation. No, it's made up of people like yourselves. And that's what's important to see.
Yeah. Well,
so thank you so much for that.
We will come back whenever you want us.
I would love it.
I can't guarantee I'm any good at building models, but I'll try.
It's you can enter in a statue, you can make a piece of art, a sculpture, things like that. So it doesn't have to be models. We try to open it up to everybody just to create art in general. So
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the book when it's done.
perfect. I'll send you a copy.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you
thank
so
you
much.
so much
Thanks
for
so
having
much.
us, Devin.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me in this special talk. I know it's short. I would love to have them on longer, but duties call with work days and stuff like that. But it was just great to have them here. So we'll have them both back next year, hopefully, and we can talk more and have more questions. And again, this is our 4th year supporting Trevor Project and our charity drive, and it's really important to me that we give such a vulnerable group of young people a fighting chance. The numbers around mental health issues, suicide, are heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And a lot of that is pushed by these very aggressive, extreme anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and disinformation out there. And so it's very important to me, and I know to a lot of the artists who participate in Cerulean Project, that we support these communities, especially these young people, as they're navigating their lives and working towards adulthood. We as adults should be using our position and our experience in our lives to advocate for a better world for them. Because as Tina said, a better world for them means a better world for us. And so that is extremely important. And that has always been a goal of mine. I will fight for the minorities. I will fight for the people who are struggling, who have been systematically oppressed and who continue to have, oppression leveraged against them in the way of bills and propaganda and rhetoric. And, it's just, I can't idly stand by and watch young people be hurt by hateful adults. So thank you all for supporting the Cerulean Project. Thank you all for sharing your beautiful art. Thank you all for showing up as a community and being as amazing as you all have been. We're building something great together. This is something beautiful to be proud of and to celebrate. And I can't thank you enough. So I'm going to jump off before I start to get teary-eyed. I just wanted to thank you all again for a wonderful year. It's been amazing. There's still a ton of art coming in. So if you're falling behind, if you feel like you can't make it, please reach out to me. Let's work something out. I'm happy to provide an extension if you need. I'd like to see you celebrate your success, celebrate your entry, and not feel like you missed it at the final hour. So thank you guys and have a wonderful evening.